As we have ourselves in the bottom right-hand corner, our red Protoss player back, risen from the ashes. I mean, he's really been gone for a while. But it's cool to see him kind of back and playing. And he's playing in a few different tournaments, so he's definitely kind of competing. Our red Protoss player here is SOS. As in the top left, our blue Terran from Dragon, Kaizi Gaming. It is going to be Oliveira. Hake's running some show matches on the new patch. Yeah, I mean, he might be, but I did inquire about making a tournament, and I had, like, at least 3 out of 5 players I contacted tell me they had 0 interest playing the PTR. And that is very, very strange. Like, if one guy says it's like, okay, whatever. For multiple people to say it, it kind of says to me that, like, the PTR is kind of not worth playing on because it's probably not what we're going to see in a patch. Like, to me, that just seems like certain players know something. So, like I said, this is basically, you know, based off of, like, you know, a little bit of past experience. It's very rare for players to say no, like, in the way that they did, so, yeah. Yo, thank you so much, Nipper. How you doing? Thank you so much for the 10-month resub as we kick off into this best of 3. Obviously, a little bit of TvP action to start us off in today's Kung Fu Cup. $1,400 on the line. Big tournament. I believe it's top 8 that get paid out. I'm going to do a little quick cheeky check on that, though, and just double check what it is that actually gets paid out here. So, yes, top 8 get paid out. 8th place, 5th to 8th. The round of 8 is $75. It's actually crazy. Top 4, $110. 3rd place, $140, because they actually do play a 3rd place match as well. $275 for second, and 1st place, $550. It is the biggest online one-day cup that we have. There's really not many cups that go bigger than this. Maybe like a special event here and there. But this is serious money. There's WTL points on the line as well. WTL points will qualify you into the next season of the Masters Coliseum as well. As you just see our Reaper and our Factory all coming up. We do have the Adept and the Warp Gate coming through as well. So getting all of this going as our Reaper heads down to the bottom right-hand side to get a little bit of early game scouting on the go. Look to see what's happening early. Obviously, SOS always was in the past a very tricksy player, so if I'm playing against SOS, even if he's not played so much recently, I'm still already thinking, like, hey, what kind of shenanigans might you be getting up to? What kind of things are you going to try and do during the course of this game? As the Reaper is going to go and whack a Zealot a few times. Hellion as well will play defensive. Factory before the expansion obviously gives you the chance to take this expansion fairly safely despite the Zealot. 2 more gateways from SOS, so he's going to go 3 gates of pressure. No proxied gateway, though, so he doesn't have a good way to really warp in across the map. I imagine that probe is going to set up a pylon. But setting up one single pylon does not exactly seem super incredible, right? It doesn't seem super amazing as a couple of Adepts continue through. The Hellions will continue to take some damage. And there is the pylon over on that left-hand side, so we will be able to warp in, but it will be slow warp-ins. Of course, slow warp-ins are not exactly the best in the world. As that pylon finishes soon, a couple of Hellions and the Reaper poking away at the Adept. And this Adept is going to take a lot of damage. It's going to get blasted. It is going to die. This Adept now going to try and kill the Hellion off. We will get it. So that Hellion goes down as well. Another nice pick-off there as the Adept moves back out onto the map. And should be pretty content with what we've achieved so far. A few Stalkers warping in on the left-hand side. Like I say, these are slow warp-ins, though, which does actually hinder your progress. You have to go so much more slowly than you would have initially wanted to. This Widowmine, I love that. Lifts up against the probe. However, now the Stalkers show up and the bunker ain't ready, so Oliveira in full retreat mode. This Widowmine has to unburrow as well. Both the Widowmines unburrow. The probe's sticking around. I mean, the probe is going to go down. Now the Widowmine's not active. We will lose both the Widowmines. The Widowmine drop will not have anything to do, and there's only 2 Marines otherwise. We're starting to kill the reactor, which has limited surface area for repairs as well, so not a bad target, although killing SCVs over the wall is probably one of the better things you can do. Some actual real damage, and continue to pressure the reactor. I mean, if the reactor goes down, that is still very good for you, as it will fall here, and a siege tank showing up, but there's now 6 Stalkers from SOS. This pressure is getting out of hand. 40 probes to 25 SCVs. He's already in an amazing spot. The one downside is he doesn't have good tech, because you're playing this aggression. His tech behind this is a prism, so you're not going to see blink for a long time, or charge, or, you know, Stargate unit supporting, so those things are missing. But with the prism, he can keep the pressure up, and maybe even get more done than what he's already achieved here in these early minutes. As that prison pops out and our stalkers set up on the natural expansion. Hate to be negative, but we wish we coordinated so we didn't just cast all the matches. I'm not gonna lie, mate, but I completely agree with you. You know? I'm not gonna... So, very quickly, because we are in the game, but basically, in the past, it was always a thing that if someone else of the same language was in the game and it was like a cup like this, the stream with low viewership would find another game. It was always like this in the past. It always has been. This is how I grew up streaming for like 5, 6, 7 years with base trade TV and other casters and so on. And it's always been like that. More recently, nowadays, casters just feel as though it's better to cast the games that they want instead of spreading out viewership on different games. I think it's stupid. But, I mean, yeah, I'm going to cast the games that I want to cast. Like I say, it's never really been on the biggest streams to go and, you know, change matches. That doesn't really make sense, so, yeah. I mean, if Roddy's casting a match, then I generally don't jump into it, for example, as Oliveira is going to die to this prison play. But I do agree. I think it's silly. Co-casting is not... co-casting isn't good for streaming, though. Because when you're co-casting, you get less support from viewers. People subscribe less, people donate less. You interact with the chat less because you're interacting with your co-caster. It's actually much worse to do a co-cast than it is to solo cast for streaming. There's Kung Fu Cup, there's more than one hype games. I completely agree. No, I'm with you. I agree. I think it's silly. In a tournament like this, if there's anyone casting the same match after the second round, I really think it's silly. I'm 100% with you. But like I say, as one of the largest streamers, it's not really my problem. I will cast what I think is the most popular match because I have the higher viewership. And that's not me trying to be a dick. That's just me being sensible with the higher viewership, you know? Top right, SOS. Bottom left, Oliveira. SOS did break through. He does kill Oliveira off in the first game. As we get into game number 2 now, see how this is going to work out. Yeah, obviously, for different languages, doing the same game is absolutely fine as well. You know, if you're covering in different languages, that absolutely makes sense. So yeah, I mean, I talked about this in a more general sense that like almost like casting etiquette has changed a lot since I kind of started casting, because again back in the day like we never really casted the same things as each other. Like even casting the same tournament as someone else, unless it was specifically an open cup with a lot of matches like a Kung Fu Cup, just never really happened. And nowadays, like, well, Team League has like 4 or 5, sometimes 6 different English streams. Masters Coliseum had like 6 English streams at the same time in a lobby. Like, this stuff just never happened in the past. And nowadays, it happens all the time. And I don't like it either, because I feel like, you know, say me and Roddy both cast Masters Coliseum. Roddy has more viewers. It makes more sense for me to not cast Masters Coliseum and to just make my own event and cast when Roddy isn't casting, than casting the same thing than him. Because overall, that will result in me having more viewership and having a better stream than casting the same thing as Roddy casts. But I don't know if Roddy's going to cast Masters Coliseum or not, so obviously I scheduled to cast Masters Coliseum, and then there's like 6 English streams, and so we're all casting the same thing. Like, I think the whole thing's kind of stupid. I think it's become kind of just like, it kind of has just become a free-for-all. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think it's silly across the board. What I think Oliveira's issues are with his SC2 form, I don't think he has issues with his SC2 form. I think he played very well in the last couple of Open Cups I've seen him playing. I think we typically only see Oliveira against very high-level opponents, and he's always playing with the Chinese connection, so he's always going to be playing with a bit of ping in comparison to his opponents too. And like I said, I don't think we see Oliveira at the level where he would kind of just dominate a lot of the matches. We always see him at this level, or in a ping situation where he's a little bit of the underdog. And I say that as he is a world champion, obviously, but like, I mean, he beat Kua 2-0 last week in ESL Open Cup career. Like, he's good, man. He's still good. It's just maybe consistency isn't there, but being consistent in the Korean scene against the top Koreans is something that very few people can do anyway, right? And then you add on to that, like, Oliveira always has the ping disadvantage. I think that's rough, right? Dark Shrine coming up, Gateway coming through, Cyclone and a few Marines are coming out. Just have ourselves the Reaper hopping up to the high ground, moving around. Again, Robo Facility coming up as well. Probes on the way out. Our Cyclone, our Marines, and our Raven all producing through. So here's my final little point on this discussion we've had, which is that I feel like in some ways, kind of the way people watch on Twitch has changed a lot as well. Whereas in the past, a lot of people would have just watched for whoever is casting that event. Nowadays, a lot of people just enjoy, some people just enjoy watching Steadfast. Some people just enjoy watching Roddy. Some people just enjoy watching me. And so, from that perspective, those guys would rather just see the best game possible, or games, those guys aren't going to care what game's being casted in terms of, if it's being casted by someone else already. They just want to watch Steadfast cast that game. So then it makes more sense, and I think that's something that's come about a lot more recently, maybe because we've had more people covering similar matches than what it used to be in the past. So that is kind of a little bit of a difference too, which in that regard it makes more sense as a Steadfast to just cast whichever game you think is the coolest, instead of just kind of trying to avoid other casters, So I feel like that was something that was less of a thing in the past and more of a thing now. So, like I say, the landscape is changing. I think every time I talk about this, I bring up Mr. Bitter once, because nowadays it's not a surprise. And for example, if I cast a series, probably and it's a good one, probably 4 or 5 other people have it on YouTube within the same week, right? I remember once way back when this was maybe 2012, 2013, probably 2013. And Mr. Bitter replied to someone on Reddit. Someone was asking, hey, are the replays available? I'd love to cast this. And Mr. Bitter replied saying, I think it's very insulting that you would want to cast this. We've already casted it. Do you not think we did good enough of a job? Why would you need anyone else to cast it? And that's also something which is just very different nowadays, right? That kind of, to me, is a very juxtaposition of how it used to be with if someone's casting it, that's the cast of it, versus nowadays it's more we're streaming rather than casting. And from the streamer's point of view, you're just making an entertaining stream with the best matches that you can, So yeah, it's, like I say, I think it's a very juxtaposition of how things used to be versus how things are now. It's very cool. I kind of, it's interesting to talk about, which is why I engage in it. So I think it is an interesting discussion. I don't necessarily think there's any right or wrong either. My view on it might be kind of an archaic view on it, As we do have our Cyclone, getting a little lock on, actually hits the Prism, which is Matrix as well. I haven't talked much about this game, but the DT opening didn't do much. The Archons try to get away. We will kill both of them. The Prism gets out alive, but the Prism getting out alive and the Archons being stuck is obviously just kind of bad. And that's what the Matrix did. It stopped the Archons from being able to lift up. This has been a disastrous start here from SOS. He really hasn't had anything go his way so far. He's killed a Reaper, a Hellion, and an SCV. He's down 2 Archons. It's been extremely expensive. And he doesn't really have the tech to show for it now either. Now he's got charge and a very low amount of zealots. Actually, he has 14 zealots. I guess a bunch of them are up over here. But he just doesn't quite have the tech that he should have for this state of the game, because he hasn't slowed Oliveira down enough, and obviously hasn't been teching in the process as he commits to something. As now his zealots are going to come in for the flank around. Let's see what we can do. A couple of Widow Mines will help against the zealots on the top. We obviously can just kite backwards with the bio. A lot of the zealots start to die, especially with that +1 upgrade favoring the Terran. So the zealots do sort of melt in that process. Medivacs, Marines, and Marauders all still pouring out. The +1 armor upgrade coming in as well. As we bring all of this through, and this army still settles around the right side. A single Marine going to come forward and just look to see a bit of what's going on with that. The Medivacs out to the top. And again, a couple of Medivacs, Armory and an Engineering Bay. All of this building through. As we do have our attack of Oliveira going to continue into the main. And again, SOS doesn't really have the tech to deal with drops right now. He doesn't have Blink. He's going to warp in a DT defensively, but as long as we have a scan, then this DT is quickly handled, and you're going to need something more than just the DT. A couple of Zealots ain't exactly going to do the job either, because Zealots work better in good numbers. It does buy you the time to get more Zealots here, however, so for the moment, SOS will hang on. He will survive, and this game continues without SOS being completely dead in the water, at least for a little bit longer. Okay, thank you very much, Booyah for all, for the 8-month resub. StarCraft is good, and Wardy is even better than that, but the real hero of this channel is Ellie. Thank you so much for the 8-month resub. Welcome back, and thank you for supporting. And thank you for the kind words, especially towards Ellie. I'll pass them on to her when she decides to show up for a little while. Our Widow Mine's going to come out to the far right-hand side, so there's going to be another drop coming in from Oliveira here, looking to aim this toward the third. just pulling this up the right again. Blink, Colossus, the Extended Thermal Lance all coming through. We do also see the +2 attack upgrade building right now as well, as our Widow Mines will burrow, and those probes get stuck trying to get away, but their Widow Mines hit the Zealots. If we target fire to the probes, I actually think we had an absolute landslide amount of probes going down. That probably would have just catapulted you as Oliveira into, well, I mean, he's already in a good position, but even better. Because right now, these Widow Mines are burrowed and cloaked, so we actually need detection, and because of that, Oliveira's going to get a jump with his main army, although there's no 4th base in position, so he doesn't find a cancel, so now he just backs it up, but he was really putting himself into a position there where he was very ready to kind of just do a lot of damage, because SOS had his army all pulled back, dealing with cloaked up mines, taking a long time to deal with it, waiting for the Observer. Oliveira definitely in control of Ancient Cistern here for game number 2 of the day here in the Kung Fu Cup. Our bio units continue to gather. Our Medivacs will do a bit of healing. The Raven's still overhead. And our Ghosts and our Vikings continue to produce our 2-2 upgrades on the way out. And the +2 attack upgrade is about to finish on the side of SOS as well. So all of that still being added. He does have the Dark Shrine from early, and with that he's going to immediately get into Shadow Strides. He's going to give himself those Blink DTs. It'll be kind of fun as well. Our Prism comes over. The Missile Turret will go down. A couple of Zealots will slice up the SEV there as the EMP on the Prism brings it low. The Zealots come through, going to slice down a Marine, and now these Ghosts just continuing to fight. Just seeing one of those Ghosts just about surviving. Bio units pressing forward. Can actually split apart a little bit here. This fight from SOS is no good. You can just see the Bio is just staying extremely high in numbers, extremely comfortable, not being shut down by anything. And yeah, now he's actually chasing as well, which is of course always amazing for a Terran. I always feel like one of the worst feelings as a Protoss must be trying to run away from a Terran army, because if you're just running, the Terran is chasing you and they're just dealing damage as they run after you and hounding you down. It's just not a fun place to be in at all as the Protoss player. As the Prism will try and make a reappearance to the main, where we'll get a couple DTs warped in. The Vikings are going to be able to kill the Prism off. The DTs will go out, so they will at least move forward, but they get instantly scanned, instantly stopped. No Shadow Strides. They can't even blink out of the scan to force a second. Immediate shutdown from Oliveira. He is all over this game. Like I say, he's fully controlling Ancient Cistern, and as he should be, right? Game number 1, okay, the build got away from him a little bit. Game 2, the build was so good for him. He shut down the DTs, he shut down the Archons, got those early. He has controlled this game from the start, and he's done all the right moves to stop SOS from getting back into it, right? You know, SOS might have been trying to, for example, you know, these Prism plays and so on. These are the things that you can mess up against as the Terran, and it lets the Protoss back in the game. Oliveira's not given any of those really a shot at kind of, you know, being messed up. He's been absolutely on top of it and shown us how he is absolutely a world-class player. This game he absolutely gets to show just how good he can be. As his Colossi will go down, the Vikings still working on them. The Super Battery is doing a bit of work, but there's obviously just no answer to this amount of bio. As Oliveira takes game 2, and we're tied up. We're going to the first player is going to be SOS. And in the top left, our red Terran from Dragon Kaizi Gaming. This is Oliveira. In number 3, Rezvan. Seeing a full series here between these two. As we will drop a gateway down on SOS's side, getting that gateway started. Just going to go for the Reaper-based wall. Let's try and keep that Reaper out a little bit in the early stages. Excellent gas coming through. And getting our simulator building up. Just following a probe for a little bit through the early stages, nothing too surprising. On that side of things, as we do have our gateway about to be done, the barracks is about to finish. Our probe comes over to the edge and is going to get ready to drop down a little bit of a wall off with the cyber core as well. The only downside of Reaper Wall on a map like Rezvan is that if you want to build your tech structure off this pylon, then it's going to be scouted by the Reaper just hopping up anyways. So the Reaper Wall is more so to stop the Reaper chasing a couple probes around, and specifically if you want to send your early units across the map, you can do that much more freely without the Reaper hopping into the main directly. So that's generally the kind of way in which that plays, is Our SCV continues out down to the bottom right. Our Nexus and our Cybercore building, the probe still coming up. Our Reaper about to be done. Our command center starting. And our Zealot is just going to pass the SCV by there for a couple of moments. And now continues out down to the bottom a little bit. Well, Zealot's not going to go across the map, just double checking. Of course, no bunker can come up or anything as the Reaper of Oliveira does. Initially moved to the middle. It's now going to pull back as well, though, so Oliveira just happy to back away. I think he was just trying to see if the Zealot was going to be out over here and if he could start getting some damage on it. If it's not, he's just going to get back home and get ready to play defense. The Stargate goes down. It's going to go down in the natural expansion, so just going to set that up and have a little bit of tech coming out here from SOS to establish this game. So getting that ready to rumble. So we have the Stargate just about halfway done, the Adept and the Zealot coming forward. A Hellion building, a couple probes coming out. That starport is just now beginning to come out here. Lovely. Lovely, lovely stuff. Adept chasing our Reaper. Reaper gets a couple shots off, but nothing too serious. Again, definitely expecting this Reaper to kind of just get shot down. It's just been trying to pick up info. And now the first Oracle comes out. Obviously, information was gained. The fact you see the Stargate and the Oracle building on it is really nice. So that's a great little addition. And that first Oracle does start to move out onto the map. With the Viking Cyclone on the way, you're obviously setting up pretty well to be able to defend against this, so it's not a guarantee, but definitely heading in the right sort of direction. Seems like Twilight Council's about halfway done, a couple of gates coming up, and the Oracle is going to activate for an SCV or two. Just going to nab a couple of those early, as now we drop a Revelation down, Cyclone lock on, scan, and I think we've got the range now. SOS didn't even try to keep moving the Oracle. I think he knew that it was probably going to go down, so he just sort of stopped controlling it. He didn't give it one additional command to try and push the limit of range. He knew it was a little bit too close, especially with the scan down, so I mean, smart from SOS to just give up on it, because it was the right call. A few Adepts and a Zealot just going to sit out the front of the third base. A couple of barracks coming up on the side of Oliveira. An Engineering Bay coming through too. A couple of Marines are producing. A Siege Tank is still coming in. This Adept's just going to move up this ramp. Cyclone gets a lock on immediately. Locks on. Adept taking a lot of damage. Adept's going to die. It's a really nice catch. Just seeing the Cyclone pulling back into the natural. A few additional Stalkers are on the way up. The Blink is about halfway done. And yeah, Barracks is going to swap on over to that tech lab so we can get even more upgrades going. Oliveira running straight himself straight in towards Stimpack and Combat Shield. All the upgrades that should help himself out a lot throughout the course of this, as these few Stalkers still make their way toward the upper left. Stimpack Combat +1, all building up here, the missile turret coming through. And just seeing ourselves, the Nexus is about to finish as well on the side of SOS too, so with that Nexus done, a few more gates on the way. We're building off of 3 bases, we're building off of a lot of Blink Stalkers very shortly. I kind of feel like with 8 gates, you're probably just going to go straight into charge as well, surely. If we don't go immediately into charge, then I feel like we're doing something really crazy. 8 gates is fine, but like 8 gates of Stalkers? Okay, charge starts as well. So Stalker Zealot going to be the setup to get us things underway. As we have our... yeah, I mean, Forge coming up as well. SOS really just readying for the mid-game. As is Oliveira, we mentioned. His upgrades were starting, Stim and Combat Shield both on the way out. The mules drop down over there. All of these Stalkers just come rallying across the map again. Stimpack, Combat Shield +1, all the good stuff being brought into play. Ian's just camping, and there is the medevac going to load up, and it's going to go on for a little bit of a journey out around the far right-hand side as well. So this medevac also going to get going. See what exactly it can come up with for the next few moments. 4 Widow Mines, obviously pretty deadly potentially. Let's see if it gets caught at all, or if it does make its full journey across the map. A few Stalkers getting caught. They turn around. Still having some blink, but we lose one. That was okay. Killed a Cyclone. I always feel like the Cyclone is not really that worthwhile. Massive warp in as the Widow Mines should be able to burrow, though. Pros trying to escape away. Stalker's a little bit slow to blink, and some of the Stalkers didn't blink fully out of range of the mines, so we actually got some Stalker kills with this. It's one of those scenarios where I feel like you're kind of okay with this, as Oliveira still killing a few Stalkers is neat. As this army, well, everything was in the wrong place. The sentries were in the back. Well, obviously that's the right place for them, but then the Terran army came from the bottom side, so actually, this turned into a disaster, and a few Zealots will go down as they try to recall away. Oliveira's army supply is going to be taking a serious lead right here. And as we recall home, the Widow Mines are active again, blowing up a bunch more Zealots. Oh my goodness. As every page turns in SOS's book, it's just another traumatic experience, apparently. The fight goes wrong, the recall goes wrong, the Widow Mine drop in the first place went wrong. Everything is, unfortunately, kind of piling up from SOS, and now Oliveira's push should be pretty scary. This is a scenario where you've got no splash damage in play, you've got nothing that can really do anything. It's the world of Zealots from SOS, but Zealots, I just don't think are good enough, especially when none of the Zealots are actually in range of the super battery. So if the Zealots were being healed by the super battery, they might have a little bit more longevity, but they came in from the other side, so Oliveira is never really fighting into the super battery, and he's still got a tank supporting himself through this. Now the cannon goes down, this base is obviously looking to be broken. Oliveira's reinforcements are coming across the map and looking very scary in the process, as it looks as though Oliveira is going to recover from the 1-0 deficit at the start of this best of 3 and will keep himself going in this Kung Fu Cup. Oliveira had a couple of finals in the Kung Fu Cup last season, in the summer season of games. Obviously, in the end, lost it. I think he lost to Cyril a couple of times in the finals even. He had some rough draws in those finals. He wins this one 2-1 over SOS.